Hello, and welcome to The Base, Big and Small Screens. Today, since it's Halloween, or getting on to October and Halloween's coming up, I thought I would do some horror movies that I quite enjoy. So this week, I will be talking about Boogeyman. That's right, Boogeyman, a wonderful little horror movie penned by Eric Kripke, I believe. Where is it? Do. Yes, screenplay by Eric Kripke. Now, Eric Kripke, and a couple others, Juliet Snowden and Styles White, but Eric Kripke, for those who don't know, he is one of the main creative people behind the Supernatural television series. And it really shows in his work here with Boogeyman. Now, this is not a movie that is going to be big on the jump scares, which I loved. I absolutely loved it. Um, because a lot of movies, a lot of horror movies tend to rely a lot on jump scares, which is good. You know, there's nothing wrong with a good jump scare, especially if it's done well. But this one doesn't. The jump scares you kind of see coming. And even though you see it coming, they still get you. But what this movie excels at is setting a very sinister tone over the whole movie. That there's an ominousness to it all. There's also, for at least the good first half of the movie, and at a movie that's 89 minutes, so almost 90, almost an hour and a half. So for a good 45 minutes of the movie, you're left kind of wondering, did what happens what happened at the beginning, is that actually the real thing? Or is he just imagining it? Has he had a mental breakdown as a child? So what am I talking about with his mental breakdown? Well, when he's young, the main character, Tim, who I believe is Barry Watson, Emily Deschanel, a.k.a. Bones, who you might remember, uh, she is she's in here as an old friend of his. But Tim, Barry Watson there, Tim, when he was very young, saw his father get devoured by the boogeyman, something in his closet. And for 16 years, he thought that it was just something that his mind made up to explain that his father up and left him, which is fine. That could happen. And he ends up going back when his mother passes away finally, uh, going back home, and ends up the boogeyman turns out, of course, to be real, because the boogeyman, it's a horror movie. That's what happens. Now, the really interesting thing, and with the slow burn and everything that they do, is how they explain it in the end. Now, spoiler warning for those of you who haven't seen the movie. Go check it out if not. But I'm going to be spoiling the ending because I have to, just to talk about it. Okay. Now, those who didn't want to be spoiled have shut the video off, gone and bought the movie, hopefully, and watched it, and have come back. And if not, you should. But the way it works, right at the beginning of the movie, you see him, this little kid, in bed, and he ends up seeing this little crow thing that he's got hanging, and one of those little balls with the plasma inside it that's zipping around. It looks like lightning. He's got one of those, and there's a little figurine, a little horror monster figurine on his desk, and a coat propped up, kind of, that looks like it's sitting on a chair. Um, all these little things, these separate little things, end up combining in his mind and end up, I guess, conjuring forth the boogeyman. But he doesn't realize that until the end, when he has to destroy these things. And by destroying them, he's destroying the boogeyman's power, because it's kind of like the thought forms of monsters. and the ancient myths and whatnot that monsters can spring from the mind, and that's what this really plays on. And I really loved how they managed to piece it all together and really connect it. Now I don't know if this movie and maybe some of the other movies that he's worked on, because I know there's a Boogeyman 2 and a Boogeyman 3 that he's connected to before he got into Supernatural, which is currently in its 11th season, I believe. But this really, it really feels like an episode of Supernatural. It has that same connection. So if any of you out there like Supernatural and you haven't checked out Boogeyman yet, I highly suggest you do. It's a great horror movie, wonderful slow build, and it's got some actresses. It's got Emily Deschanel in it. This is before Bones took off, back in 2005 or 2004. The DVD was in 2005, copyrighted. So probably around there, probably just before Bones took off and became super popular, before she started on it. So yeah, check it out. It is worth your time. And I will see you next week.